Hi, everybody, and welcome. Thanks for joining us today. My name's Megan, and I'm the Digital Marketing Specialist at Digital Sparks Marketing. And just to give you a little bit of a background, Digital Sparks is a marketing company that specializes in increasing ticket revenues for venues and events with digital marketing. And today we'll be discussing how to increase your ticket sales by 10x with digital marketing. So thanks for joining us, and we will have a Q&A session at the end, so feel free to ask us any questions. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. Let me introduce our founder and CEO, Bob Tripathi. Bob, I'll let you go ahead and take it over from here.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, let's just get started and we will get in, but I believe everyone can see and hear me. So thank you so much. As Megan mentioned, we basically work with events and ticketing and a lot of other industries, but this is one of our specialized verticals as well. Personally, we love solving problems. We call ourselves a boutique agency, and basically we work on solving problems, which is basically driving ticket sales. So very outcome focused. And as far as my bio is concerned, I will let you guys read through it at your leisure time. But yeah, I've worked in the industry since 2000, 2001. Have a search background, and then social, and then content, and all of those stuff. Over the years, I've worked with smaller companies as well as some large national brands. And you know, I'm an entrepreneur at heart, so started my first company in 2011, which was an online digital marketing training company, then ran a software company, and now from the past few years I've been helping companies basically solve the biggest problem is how to generate revenues through digital marketing. So that's a little bit about me. Obviously, during so many years, I've co-authored a book, written a lot of publications, spoke at numerous marketing conferences, and also I work with some of the biggest tech incubators in the Bay Area, and that is 500 Startup and NASDAQ as well. And yeah, you can find a lot of my videos on my website at digitalsparksmarketing.com, and we also have a lot of free resources as well on the website, so please check it out. And yeah, interviews, and in my free time when I'm spending with my daughter, we love playing tennis, so we are tennis fanatics. I'm not sure how many of you are into podcasts, but I would suggest you to open your phones right now and just type in Bobcast Digital Marketing. I bring in a lot of industry experts and leaders on my podcast each week, and we typically have been releasing a new episode each week from the past year or so. So do check us out. We are on iTunes and all of those great places. All right, so let's get into this. So today the topic, of course, is how to increase your revenues, ticket sales through digital marketing. And I would take the help of a case study. We recently worked with a client, and they came to us because they were spending too much money, and basically they were losing 72 cents on every dollar. And they had a budget of about 50,000 a month. So do the math yourself. If you lose 72 cents on every dollar you spend, you're losing a lot of revenues right off. That's a loss. So in 30 days, we were able to take them from a failing campaign where they were losing 72 cents on a dollar and converted it into profitability. And you know, we are very proud because you know, you always hear things, right? 10x, 10x, but we were actually able to do it for this client. So a lot of my presentation today is case study as well as all the other work we have done for clients over the years. Before I get started, let me level stage. In marketing, I think everyone has this thing, especially in the events and ticketing space. What we are looking at is a sprint, a marketing sprint, because we have events planned 6 months, 1 year, maybe more in advance in terms of events planned. Then how do we get in? It's very tempting to go right into the tactics, like let's do search, let's do social, let's do content, let's do email marketing. But what most of the times you've seen businesses forget is what they should be measuring and how they should go about it. And there's nothing better than the classic AIDA in action, which is attention, interest, desire, and action. And when you look at a classic AIDA model, at the very first, which is your attention, it's all about grabbing eyeballs. And that's what we do as marketers, right? And especially when you have events, these days, there are so many events in all different areas. And, we all want a little bit share of the wallet from the customers. And with that, what it is very critical that we grab eyeballs. A lot of the tactics that we have seen in this space, especially in the events and ticketing space, is very traditional form of marketing. Like you've been doing mailers, you've been doing email marketing, you have a website, you had some Google paid search, and so on and so forth. But I don't think a lot of us are doing a great job of grabbing attention. Interest. Once you have grabbed people's eyeballs, which is their attention, the next thing is to convert those eyeballs or impressions, as we like to call it, into engagement. And the goal at this stage is how do you engage your audience, right? And there are many different ways. Now, engagement as a word has been, used and reused and repurposed in many different ways. But, you can think of engagement is once you have got somebody in your venue, how do you engage them, right? As an example, on the web, on the internet right now, through digital marketing, you basically want them to pause for a second and pay attention to your ad or your listing or whatever your event is. Once you have done that, the third thing rather after that is how as marketers, and this is what we do, is create some psychological triggers to drive behavioral change. I'm going to talk about it as we go along in this presentation, but in order to create desire, it's the classic laws of attraction, right? If you want to create desire in your customer's mind, then there are some psychological triggers that play, because when there are triggers, there is a change in the behavior, and which then produces the desire to take action. So once we have the final step, which is taking action, what we have to do as marketers or as event or producers or hosts, we don't stop there. Our goal after that is how do we convert them after they've taken an action into raving fans, making them an evangelizing our show. So the classic AIDA is always works. For us, what we have done successfully over the years is we have followed, especially in this vertical, a 4-step marketing process, especially to drive ticket sales. This industry, especially when you have an event coming up, it's go, go, go. And for that, what we have seen is we start creating personas. Sometimes we meet a lot of business owners, a lot of venues, and they basically have a show coming up, and they do the tried and tested tactics when it comes to marketing, but they haven't really stepped back and see that who our show is created for. All of us in this world has this fallacy that the whole world is our market, but that's not true. And especially in marketing, the more niche, the more specific you are, the better your conversion rates are going to be. So creating personas for your targeting is super, super critical. Even when we create personas, what we have seen that there are folks who are your current audience, who have been part of your events, a part of your venue from the last 10 years, 15 years. But what you as an event marketer or a venue manager are doing to pull the new crowds in, the millennials, if you will. So the creating personas is super critical. And once you do that, after we create personas, what we do actually is we reverse engineer based on your objectives and based on that persona to see which tactics will help to capture attention and essentially to convert. Because at the end of the day, we create content, and content is not just like a blog, but you look at your Instagram and all those kind of things. That's all content too at the end of the day. And finally is capturing and converting. And capturing and converting is not just into ticket sales, but basically how do you help them spread the word, right? And the final step, which is helping them evangelize. Now, especially today where everybody is Instagramming and Snapchatting and whatnot, evangelizing your product, if it's good, is not that tough, and we have seen some great examples even in this industry who have done really well. So for example, I was at this pop-up exhibit called Color Factory, and they do a tremendous job of using RFID at their venue to basically capture and evangelize the people who are visiting the museum, and help them share, and of course the data collection and all that. So there are many different ways we basically have worked and have seen in the industry where you can make your current customers evangelize your product. So anyway, getting into the nitty-gritty of it, when we look at digital marketing, of course our goal is to increase the ticket sales. And there are some methods which is like organic, paid, and social. Now, what I have learned having been in the industry since 2001, I call it the lazy marketer's approach, is to basically spend money. In my book, I know it sounds a little, it doesn't sound that great, not polite at all, but if somebody who lazy marketers for us is who goes out there, spends money to get traffic, to get conversion. Anybody can do that, right? But the real trick of the trade is how do you create your organic community, your owned assets like your email capturing, your engagement, stuff like that, to basically not spend money or actually help the money that you're spending on paid ads to go further. And that's what holistic digital marketing is all about. So the rest of the few slides, I'm just going to give you some examples on how to do that better. Again, these are just some of the basic level stuff that I think many of you must be doing it. So I'm just going to browse through it real quick, but local SEO schema markup is super critical. We still see that, all the events and venues, this is where 80% of the conversions are going to come from. And it's not just about local listings optimization, but, things like Google these days runs a lot on schema markups, and schema markups is basically, attributes that you can tell Google, whether it be your events, your venue, your artist, e-commerce. In the e-commerce world, stores have been doing that very successfully. And we see that a lot of our clients are still not utilizing schema markup. Blog, we were just searching for one of the clients of museums in Dallas, for example, and you see that it's not just the Google local listings, but it's the whole blogosphere, as we call it. So having a good blogger outreach program has helped us in the past. And obviously the fundamentals of SEO still is in place, like having a good on-page link building, engagement, and technical, which I won't go into it. But if you really look at your organic, 80% will come from your local listings and 20% is the SEO, which again pushes the local listings to go up. So it's all interconnected, just like this world, and that's how we basically approach local listings. I'm just going to browse through it because I'm guessing most of you are well versed into all that, and we've helped increase local listings as well. But I think the biggest piece that I think most clients miss is, are we listed? Are you doing an active blogger outreach? So one of the ways we were able to generate revenues in such a short period of time is we did 3 things to build the organic side of things, and that was blogger outreach, having our clients listed in tourist guides and Yelp and other listing sites, influencer events or any niche events. So we did an influencer program, and you can learn more on our website at digitalsparks.com, marketing.com, and there is a blog post around that. But influencer nights are great. A lot of people are talking about influencer marketing, but what happens is people are missing the point of influencer marketing. The reason you want to do an influencer event, like for example, we did this for a client, and we put this event in less than 5 days, and we had like 450 invites and 61 RSVPs, 48 people showed up. And the reason you wanna do these kind of influencer nights is not just to promote and know who the influencers are in your space, in your area, but at the end of the day, your objective from an influencer night should be, how do you convert these influencers into people, ambassadors or affiliates, whatever you may want to call it, to sell on your behalf? That should be the #1 goal. And of course, the other thing that comes out of it is, the stories they share, the pictures they tag, and so on and so forth. So when we did this little influencer night for one of our clients, what we saw was the total follower reach, or the reach in all, was about 500,000. Now, if you take 500,000 in terms of dollar amount, the amount of money you would spend on social media ads to reach that many people, that's right there and there is ROI. And on top of that, if you convert your influencers into your affiliates, if you will, and give them a cut of the revenues if they sell tickets on your behalf, you are looking at an ROI which is beyond any advertising can provide. So a huge thing. So I'm going to jump right into paid ads. I know that a lot of you guys, I've seen emails in the past. So I'm going to focus right into the paid side on how you can generate revenue. So some of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to share some tactics and some of the things we have learned, because right now what we do see is everybody is running Google ads and everybody is running social media ads. Now, a lot of my career is about 8 years, 9 years has been in on the B2B tech marketing side of things. And the same principles, people always ask me, what is the difference between B2C and B2B? And my response to them is, it's not a lot of different. At the end of the day, we are selling to humans, right? And humans are at the decision-making level. And, the tactics change, but the way you engage them, the behavior is still going to be the same. But the biggest piece that we see is we usually divide it up for our clients into 2 things. That is capturing the demand, which is your hand raises, and then generating demand. So Google paid ads are great at capturing the demand, where people know what they want or they have an inclination of what they want. So a classic keyword is things to do in whatever that city is going to be. And that means people are looking for stuff, and then your job is to capture those people, right? Or capture that demand. And search is great at it because it's very intent-based, right? So we do a lot of that. But the tough part is generating demand where somebody doesn't know what, or they don't even have plans, but suddenly you pop up and, you look very enticing. Your event looks very enticing, and that is called generating demand. And basically when we design our campaigns, we usually bucket them out and then create a strategy based on that, because at the end of the day, when you look at your blended cost per acquisition, it's a blend between the two, and that is the whole goal of marketing. So in the next few slides, and in the interest of time, what I want to do is focus on some things that on social media ads we have seen can help you take your ROI, increase your ROI. So the next few tips that I'm going to walk you through is all going to be related to social media ads. And again, because of the time constraint and only so much we can cover during this session, what I'm going to do is focus, because most of you must be running or should be running or are running social media ads. So I'm going to focus on that because this is the place where you're going to get the maximum bang for your buck. So most of the events and the venues that we come across, they have a national outreach or a national presence, but most of them are very local in nature. So for example, with the client we worked with, what we saw was, we had a very limited time, and they were losing money at 72 cents on a dollar, as I mentioned. So the first thing we do is we basically cut the fat, get lean. And how do you make this lean? Well, one of the biggest things we notice is the geo-targeting was not done right. So there are many variables when you create your social media ads, like your account structure, your audience targeting, your ad relevance, your quality, which is the ad quality, the platforms, the audience overlapping, so on and so forth. Also, everyone should remember that the same engineers who created or who worked on Google ads are the same people who jump shipped and worked for Facebook. So the underlying algorithm is super similar. The only difference is how one is on a social platform and the other is out there on a search platform, just to clear it up. But one of the first things we saw with this client was 70% of their impressions were coming from a Dallas geo area, which is 25 miles within Dallas geo. And 95% of conversions was coming from Dallas. So right there, we saw that there is a way we can fix it. So we were able to fix the impression to conversion ratio. So then we fixed the geo-targeting and all the different options in there with the ad copy and the account structure and all of that stuff. So what ended up happening in 2 weeks was we were getting 98% conversions from the same geo and 95% of impressions from the same geo. So right there and there, we were able to basically reduce cost or cut cost by 25%. And usually we have seen this is the low-hanging fruit in marketing in social media ads. So that is the first tip I would say we go after. The second thing, again, is creating FOMO. Everyone knows FOMO, the fear of missing out, but how do you do that? And one of the ways to create FOMO is essentially what you do is you create engagement. Once you create engagement, so for example, if I'm posting something on my Instagram or my Facebook account, now suddenly you're going to see some likes, you're going to see some comments, you're going to see some engagement. And once that happens, what it tells other people is essentially a lot of other people are liking and commenting this post, and there is a lot of engagement, and that creates social proof. And once something creates social proof, by default, our brains are wired in such a way that it creates the fear of missing out. So which means that, oh my God, everyone is liking this, so it must be good. That's how you create a social proof. And because it's good and everyone is liking it, I don't want to be the one that's missing out. And that's one of the easiest ways to create FOMO. Now, FOMO is not just looking at stuff, but BJ Fogg at Stanford has done some amazing studies, spent his whole career doing this, is creating behavioral models. And what it is there are triggers, as I mentioned earlier. There are triggers that drive our decision. or our activation in our brains. And once we have trigger and there is a motivation or a means, right, what it happens is you end up changing a behavior. And for us as marketers, the behavior change that we want to make is we want them to buy tickets to your show, right? And so we in social media, in digital, what we do is we act as the triggers to change that behavior. And of course, they should have a means, to pay for the ticket and the time too. And that's how you change behavior model. A great book, which is a bestseller by Robert Cialdini, is The Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion. So if some of you who haven't read it, I suggest go out and read it as well. So that's a little bit about how to create FOMO. The second thing is building new audiences. Now, on the way you do Google search ads is not the way you do your social media ads, okay? And that's the right off the bat I want everyone to understand. In Google ads, the demand is somewhat around the keywords, around the intent, and there are many people which have different intents, and new people come into the funnel almost every week. Now, what happens on social media is you basically create your audience, the type of audience that you want to create, and then you show them the ads. These are essentially display ads. And because these are display banner ads, whatever you may want to call it, after a time, your audience is going to get jaded because they're going to see the same ads over and over again. So the game is to create new audiences and keep on building those audiences. And of course, there is a lot of different variables that goes into it. But one of the biggest thing we have seen is creating new audience, which is what we did. We did a lot of lookalike audiences, and from a lookalike audience too, there is a size that you can go the closest 1% to your targeted persona and to 10%. So greater the number, the lower ratio of they would be if they would be a good customer or the right fit customer. Now, when you're building your audiences, there are multiple ways to build it. You can actually insert your past client data or your customer data. You can look at variables. Even if you have a small data pool, that's fine too. But there are a lot of ways you can create a lookalike, a matching audience, so on and so forth. You can even create lookalike audiences from your followers, from people who have liked your post or people who have watched your video. So there are many different ways to create new audiences, but the whole game is to keep on building new audiences. The other thing we did with our client, basically to increase their revenues by 10x, is basically day parting. Now, what we have seen in this business is absolutely there are days when, people are not in the mood, and there is always the whole AIDA, right? There is a day that people are getting aware, are getting known. They know when is your event or when is your show. Then once they are exposed to that ad, the second thing then they do is they go in a comparison or the desire mode. And then on a certain day, usually it's the day before or 2 days before the show or the event, they're going to end up buying the tickets, which is the conversion. So what we saw with this client was there was only a certain day that they were spending money. So we thought we will just go dark on certain days or minimize the spend. And that is how you can actually make your marketing dollars go further. Now, that is called day parting, which is a specific time of a day. The other thing we noticed is people were buying between the times of 8 to 10 a.m. in the morning when they get into the office, and they buy the tickets, they're done, and then they can focus on the work. And the other time slot we saw people were buying were from 3 to 5. So then what we did is, why we were running ads for the rest of the day, because we were just increasing spend. So we stopped, and then we implemented day parting, and then we just went from 8 to 10 in the morning, and then 3 to 5, and then as Thursdays would roll in, or the weekends, or the time of the of the show, we would also do like a couple of hours in the evening. So you can do day parting, but you can also do day of the week. For example, what we saw with this client was Monday was a slow day. So there was no point in running ads with the same budget. So we minimized the budget by about 80% on Mondays and Tuesdays, because that was people were at the research stage, awareness stage. And then as the day came closer to the events, which usually used to be from Thursday through Sundays, that's when we would scale up the spend. So day parting, day of the week, super, super critical. Megan, how am I doing on time?
We have
Few more
we're getting
minutes?
close.
All right. I'll just run
Yeah.
through it. Thank you.
5 minutes probably, then we'll go into Q&A.
Good. The other thing, and I think most of you guys are doing it, but most of the clients we work with, they don't do enough to partner with local businesses. Remember, social media, digital marketing is not just you running ads, your content, but basically, creating a tribe, working with local businesses group, and essentially making them be part of the moment. So for one of the clients that I was talking about, we actually worked with a local restaurant and helped them co-promote it, and the restaurant also promoted them in return. And that is a big trick. I think that one post had the highest comments. They had like 140 some comments and amazing amount of reach. And you can't buy that reach because it's very organic. Giveaways is another great way, but giveaways just for the sake of giveaway, people can smell it, so be more creative with it. But as we running closer, the biggest or the most important metric that everyone, all event managers and venue owners should measure is return on ad spend. Now, which is simple, is your total revenues that you're making and the money you are spending. That's how you come up with return on ad spend. And of course, this numbers as managers and as an agency, we measure this religiously day in, day out. We create spreadsheets, campaign type, is it on Facebook, Instagram, your Google, impressions, your spend, how many orders you got, or ticket sales, the total sales, average order value. Remember, average order value depends a lot on the type of show you have, the seasonality. So average order value is super critical, because once you have an average order value, you know what is your allowable cost per acquisition, right? So those are super critical metrics when it comes to this. And yeah, in 30 days, as I mentioned, in less than 30 days, we were able to get the return on ad spend for this client from a negative losing proposition to making money proposition, right? So we love skyscrapers and the hockey sticks. So this was one example. But there's also a lot of social media metrics, and I should caution, because what most people do, especially in this space, is they find the youngest person in the company and give them the social media. Nothing wrong with it, but the truth of the matter is this is a classic marketing channel. So just like how you have really experienced folks managing other marketing channels, the same way there is a lot of business sense to it. So what we see is, a lot of the venues and clients, they work social media posting in isolation. Just because somebody is posting on their personal social media doesn't mean that they are able to post it for business. And the real bang for the buck is when you combine your paid social media with your organic social media. That's when your engagement goes up. That's when your comments, your shares, your reaction goes up. In fact, that also increases the quality of your ads, which means if your quality of your ad or the relevance goes up, Facebook is going to show your ad or display your ad to a wider audience. So you will have a wider reach. That means you're going to have a better return on ad spend. So, we always tell our clients, that we don't work in isolation, but we basically combine organic social media, which is community building, posting, engagement, all of those beautiful stuff, and combine it with paid ads because they work together and not in isolation. We are big believers in managing brand sentiment, and as venues, as event producers, we all are should be measuring our sentiments, our recommendations, and essentially which means your net promoter score. So we do that, and every business should be measuring this as well. But that's all I've got, just a few tips for this limited amount of time. But please email me. It's bob@digitalsparksmarketing.com, and I would love to help you, and just happy to provide a free brainstorming session too. And any way I can help solve any problems, I would be more than glad to do it. Megan, any questions for us that I can help answer right now?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't let you get away without answering our questions.
Yeah, I love that.
Some questions. So let me see here. So one question I have is, someone's asking, I have a limited budget. So should I do Google ads or social media ads?
Yeah, it's life's never-ending challenge, right? Limited resources. Doesn't matter you are in a small company, big event, small event. Everybody has limited resources. It's interesting because, as I mentioned, one way you are capturing demand, and the other side you are generating demand, right? So if you are good at your organic channels, which is your local SEO, your blogger outreach, all the other stuff that I talked about, you are going to capture the demand, so then you don't have to focus a lot on spending Google paid ad money. Instead, what we do, if you have limited budget, is focus on the long tail, very specific transaction oriented keywords, and again, um, this is keeping in mind that your organic is working hard for you, and then you can focus on the long tail keywords as well. And then competitive keywords are a great way, right? So I would focus on that and not really bid on some top high level keywords. Instead, focus on the organic side of it. Social media, yes, you are generating demand. These are the new folks that has never been exposed to your venue, to your event, that you're bringing them in. So always allocate a little bit more money to generating demand. So yeah, to answer your question, depending on where you are, I would suggest spending 65% on social, 35 on paid ads, and then just do a blended CPA. Because remember, the trick is in social, what we do see is a lot of events and venues are finding more success on Instagram and on Facebook. The reason is we live in a visual world, right? And this is all about experiences. So you can show that experience in a much better format on social, and hence the 65-35 ratio that I'm giving you. So.
Awesome. Great. One more question. What do you think of organic Instagram posts versus paid social ads?
Yes, I think the question is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is I think the question is, should I do this or that, right? Is that how you read it too?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's not a zero-sum game. It's not this or this. But again, what I was mentioning earlier, the best way to create engagement is if you have a social media, post it, on your organic, let's say Instagram, right? So post it on your Instagram organically on your handle, get your likes, get your comments, let more people engage with it. Now you can take the same post and post and create an ad out of it. Now suddenly that's how you're gonna create engagement, your social proof, and create FOMO. So don't think of social media as should I do this or this. And I see people doing it all the time where they have a separate ads, but they are not leveraging what they existing have. We live in a coexisting world. We always have been. And in social media, it's all about working it holistically. So yeah, that would be my suggestion. So hopefully I answered your question.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, I think that's all the time we have. Does anyone else have any other questions? Or Bob, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, the only thing I would add is I think since you asked the last question about paid and Google, I think a lot of people have the wrong expectations. They think that Facebook or social media ads should work in the same linear funnel as the Google ads, and that doesn't happen, and then they are in a bit of a surprise. So always I suggest event managers and marketers to look at your blended cost per acquisition with the two channels and then look at it in totality. But no, that's it. And
Yeah,
if you
great
don't have any
insights.
questions, yep.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bob. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Be sure to email us if you have any further questions, and visit our website, digitalsparksmarketing.com. We have a lot of extra resources, videos, webinars, things like that. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today.